Welcome back to the channel. We're out here in Lake City, Colorado. See some of the mountains. It is beautiful. We're used to the Kansas humidity, and it's been like 45, 50 degrees in the mornings here and gets up to about 70, 75. It's amazing, so nice. But we're out here, little family vacation, and we're staying in the Wildflower Cabins. So if you guys are gonna plan a Lake City trip, you definitely wanna check out these cabins. They've got like 7 or 8 of them. They're very nice. Definitely gets the job done for what we're out here to do, and that is to do some off-roading. So yesterday we hit up Cinnamon Pass and Engineer Pass. Today we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna do it in reverse. And then we're also gonna be hitting up a couple other trails and seeing some stuff along the way. So you guys are gonna see yesterday's content first, and then you'll see what we're about to do today. And I think there's a little bit of a surprise at the end of one of these. It's called Poughkeepsie Gulch, and there's a big wall on it. And I've seen a lot of videos of people destroying stuff on it, but we are gonna try to do it in the KRX and the Pro XP. So again, we're in Lake City, Colorado. If you guys have any questions about this place, let me know. But they are UTV friendly. Doesn't look like there's anyone really on the roads now, but they're UTV friendly, so you are able to ride your UTV in town. And the main thing is just be respectful. If you have big stereos or anything like that, just turn them down, go the speed limit, make sure you got your OHV permit, and again, just respect the town, and we'll be able to keep coming back here and riding for who knows how long. But again, we're gonna go ahead, get loaded up, and hit the trails today. But thanks for watching, we'll see you later. So we kicked off our day one adventures out here in Lake City by starting with Cinnamon Pass. So out of Lake City, we started going south on the highway. And after talking with some of the locals, they suggested that once we get past the ski resort just south of town, you can take a right up onto another gravel road that ends up taking a different pass. And it's not a huge trail, it's not really well marked, but if you do have the Polaris Ride Command app, it does show up on there. And this is a cool little kind of offshoot that then will drop down onto Cinnamon Pass. It actually will tie into Lake San Cristobal, which is kind of the start of Cinnamon Pass. So that's where you'll drop into. But on your way up on this little trail, there's a couple cool little lookouts. There is even one, and it's pretty hard to find, but if you're paying attention, it's kind of this outcropping of rock. And if you go out there on this rock, you can see 4 different 14,000 foot mountains off in the distance, and it's an awesome place to stop and take some pictures. So once we got down off of this trail, we took some pictures down at Lake San Cristobal and kind of hung out there for a little bit, and then continued on. And from there, it was about 10 miles down Cinnamon Pass to Carson Ghost Town. It's kind of the turn off to get to it, and I believe it's called Wager Gulch is what you'll see. And you take that up, and then you'll see Carson Ghost Town. It's about 4-ish miles up that trail, and that was a really cool trail. There was quite a bit of people actually when we got up there, but it's kind of a rocky uphill pretty much the whole way up to the town. And this Carson Ghost Town is just kind of one of those old mining towns. It's really well preserved, so it's kind of cool to go up there. We had lunch and kind of just enjoyed everything around there. We talked to a lot of cool people that were up there as well. So once we got done with the town, we decided to continue on our path, and the next stop that we wanted to hit was American Basin. And what was cool about American Basin is they have a lot of cool sightseeing places, and when you get there, you'll see a lower parking lot. We didn't think you could drive any farther than this, so we got out and started hiking from here, and there's actually a second parking lot farther up the trail. And once you get to that second parking lot, they have trail maps and kind of like a guide on the hike, and it's a hike up to Handy's Peak. So I think it's roughly 14,000 feet to get to the top. About halfway up is a really cool lake that you can stop and see. But we hiked up to this lake. There was a couple of us that made it, and it is definitely hard. You want to take your time, make sure you pack some water and some food. I think it took us about a little over an hour to get up there, but the elevation change and the rocks made it pretty difficult. So once we got done with this hike, it was already starting to get late. I think it was about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and we still had to finish Cinnamon Pass and then get back on Engineer Pass back to Lake City. So Cinnamon Pass, the sun was starting to go down, and it created a really cool landscape, as you can see here in some of this GoPro footage. And for the second half of the loop, we were kind of blessed with this awesome sunset. The only issue is at times the sun being lower would make it kind of hard to see, so just kind of reflecting off the windshield, especially if you were going uphill. So you just had to take your time and really make sure you knew what you were doing and watch out for anyone else on the trail, and just, again, make sure you know what you're doing. Once you get down Cinnamon Pass, you're going to get to kind of a T intersection. If you go left, you kind of head towards Silverton and Animas Forks. And we knew we were going to come back to this spot tomorrow, so we went ahead and just continued on to the right, which takes you to Engineer Pass. So we began Engineer Pass, and from what we had heard, the recent rains had washed a lot of the trail out, and most of the people that we had talked to were Jeep people, and some were even people that took like big Ford pickups up there. So we weren't too worried that they said they were able to do it. Being washed out didn't really affect the RZRs at all. One big thing you want to be paying attention to out in Colorado, or just anywhere out in the mountains, is kind of a little bit of trail etiquette. So when you're going uphill, you actually have the right of way. So whoever is coming down, if you meet them on the trail, they are supposed to stop and pull over to the side and let you go. Obviously, if it's more convenient for you to pull over and then let them go, do that. But just kind of a rule of thumb, the person going uphill does have the right of way. And you also want to make sure you're using hand signals to kind of identify how many people are still in your group. So I would always just hold up the number 2 behind me, just showing, hey, there's 2 more side-by-sides behind us, be on the lookout. And a lot of other people do this as well. So you just kind of want to know when people are doing, like flashing a number 5 at you. Okay, they have 5 more people behind them, so I need to be waiting for that many more people. Once we got to the top of Engineer Pass, we didn't see it on this first day. We did see it the second day. But off and to the left is a really cool lookout. You can kind of drive. It's a narrow road over to it, but it's not too bad. It's kind of just a cool lookout that looks over the whole valley and kind of over towards Ouray. I think it's actually called Ouray Point. But we didn't see it on this first day, so we went ahead and continued on through Engineer Pass. So our plan for the rest of the day was basically to get back to Lake City as fast as possible, and we were going to do that by Engineer Pass. We didn't want to really stop along the way because tomorrow we were going to do the loop backwards and basically do the stops tomorrow. So we didn't really want to take too long on this trail. We did, however, stop one time, and it's towards the bottom of Engineer Pass. You can kind of look over the edge, either stop or make sure you're paying attention, and you can see a RZR that had rolled down several years before, and it kind of just looks like a mangled ball of metal. So it's kind of cool to see that. It also is kind of a reminder, hey, pay attention to what you're doing. You don't want to get out of hand, and don't get too close to the edge, especially when it's wet, because it's going to be a lot softer than what you might think, and it could be easy to lose traction. The rest of that day was pretty basic. We just followed Engineer Pass all the way back into Lake City and got rested up for day 2. Day 2, we wanted to kick off by running the loop in reverse from what we did the day before. So we were going to do Engineer Pass and then loop all the way back around to Cinnamon Pass. So our first stop on Engineer Pass was Nelly Creek. This is about a 4.5 mile offshoot off of Engineer Pass. It's not too far outside of Lake City. So Nelly Creek will lead you up to another hiking spot. It's about, I think this is another one of those 14,000 foot mountains. So we actually drove up Nelly Creek, got out at the trailhead, and hiked for about 1.5 miles. Nothing too crazy. We knew we weren't going to hike all the way up to the peak. So we just went up about as far as we wanted to and then turned around and went back down. But overall, Nelly Creek was an awesome trail. There's a lot of waterfalls and several creek crossings that make it really cool. And also being out there when the aspens were just starting to kind of change the color of the leaves a little bit. They were still pretty green, but you could tell if we were out there like a week or two later and all the aspens were changing colors, it would have been beautiful. After Nelly Creek, we ventured up to a new waterfall off of Engineer Pass, and this was actually Whitmore Falls. This was a really cool outlook. So they actually have kind of an overlook that you can hike down to, and we hiked down to that and actually ate our lunch here and kind of just enjoyed the sound of the waterfall. Once we were heading back to the RZRs though, one of the people in our group saw a little path that looked like it actually led down to the bottom of the waterfall, and it actually did. So we decided to hike down to it, and this was a very steep path, but it was well worth the little hike down because some of the views down here were amazing. Once we finished up here at the waterfall, we didn't really make any more stops until we got over Engineer Pass. There's a few little things you can stop and look at, a couple little mining towns and whatnot, but we had a lot to do this day still, and we wanted to make sure we got it all done. So we made our next stop at Animas Forks, which is another little mining town, and it kind of leads, it's like the intersection where Silverton comes into the Alpine Loop, and also you can go over to like the Telluride area. So this is kind of like that main intersection. And we got out and kind of looked around this place. It was a really cool little mining town, and it's very well preserved. So there's a organization out there that is always raising money and making this place stay alive. Obviously it's not functioning, but all the buildings, or a lot of them, are still standing, and there was even a 3-story home that we were able to go up in. The stairs are in it and everything, and you're able to go up and kind of walk around the house and see what times would have been like back in the day. Once we were done at Animas Forks, we had a little bit more time to kill, and there was one place I really wanted to see on this trip, and that was Lake Como. So from Animas Forks, you're going to take California Gulch, and at the end, you're going to have an option to go over Hurricane Pass, or you can go on Poughkeepsie Gulch. And Poughkeepsie is actually a very challenging trail, but to get down to Lake Como, you only have to go maybe a mile on Poughkeepsie, and it's nothing too serious at all, and it's well worth it to go down and see this lake. The blue in the lake is like nothing I've ever seen before. Super cool and very well worth it. My next video will actually show more of the Poughkeepsie Gulch. So my dad and I decided to do one more day of riding, and knowing Poughkeepsie was definitely harder, it was just me and him that went out and did it. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that video because it's sweet and it really shows what a lot of that trail is and how difficult it can be. Once we finished up at Lake Como, it was time to head back over California Gulch, get onto Cinnamon Pass, and back on to Lake City. If we had a little bit more time, there is one more pass that you can do that connects California Gulch back over to Animas Forks. I'll flash the name up here because some of them are kind of hard to pronounce, but it's a very easy pass. We didn't do it, but it is an option, kind of just another thing to go sightsee. Once we got back, we were just in time for a little concert in town. So if you guys go to Lake City, you definitely want to check out the place called Chillin. They had a live music. The owner was there. He was singing, playing the guitar. They had drinks there, and the hospitality was just amazing. The people there are so welcoming, and it was popping. There were so many people there. It was very relaxing. It was an awesome opportunity to kind of unwind from the day and just sit back, enjoy some music, and enjoy some nice drinks. I do want to end with a quick shout out to the Wildflower Cabins. That's where we stayed. I'll link them down in the description below. And also High Altitude Adventures. That's where we rented one of the RZRs that were in our group, and the people there are super knowledgeable and very friendly. It was also right next to the cabin, so we were able to walk over, pick up the RZR, and we would be good for the day. Both of these places are very high quality 5-star places, and I would highly suggest you check them out if you make this trip. But that's going to be it for this video. You're going to want to definitely stay tuned for when we hit Poughkeepsie Gulch. Sorry for the delay in posting these videos. This is obviously going to be the first one from our Colorado trip, but if you guys have been following me on Instagram, you've seen me post a lot of pretty cool content already from our trip, but I had to get a couple other videos posted before I started getting my Colorado ones done. And this is going to be the end of day one. So obviously you guys just saw the Alpine Loop. We started on Cinnamon Pass and kind of did the offshoots with that. And then we hit up Engineer Pass, and right there in the middle we went on a little hike, and I can add all this stuff in the description, or if you guys have any questions about any of the stuff we did, drop a comment down below and I will be sure to answer them. But we did a little hike in the American Basin, and that took a long time, and then we didn't get back to Lake City until like 8 o'clock, 8:30. So I was so drained from being out on the trail all day, so I didn't get an outro for day one, but that is going to be what this is. So that's it for day one. And I do want to say real quick, which we didn't really run into any issues, but one thing that we really want to stress is making sure you guys are cleaning up what you take out onto the trail. So my dad and I both have the Sacket bags. You've probably seen them before in a lot of my videos, but I love it. You guys need to get some of these. They've got several different options, different colors. They even have like a new leathery look one. It's a solid bag. But seriously, get one of those. They're super cheap and they don't look terrible. I mean, I kind of like the way it looks on there. I mean, I don't know. Some people might think they look dumb, but I think they look okay, and they're very functional. But just make sure you're picking up after yourselves. Keep these trails open. I know a lot of people kind of hate on the side-by-sides, which suck because we bring a lot of money into these towns, and the majority of us respect the towns, respect the laws, and I probably cleaned up more trash than any of the other Jeeps or any other people out there that we saw this whole weekend. So just make sure you're doing your part. If you go to Lake City, I've got a ton of good information, but just go to the visitor center, talk to some of the locals. They'll fill you in on some of the do's and don'ts. And honestly, they love the UTVs. We went and talked to the lady at the visitor center, and she said they literally count the UTVs that go by and they report that to Colorado. And basically that just shows Colorado like, hey, this is how many people are actually going there and riding UTVs. So it allows them to continue to keep Lake City a UTV friendly city or town, whatever you want to call it. And again, just make sure you're following the rules. Their sheriff in town is very strict. So if you're speeding, you're gonna get pulled over. If you're a kid and you don't have a helmet on, you're gonna get pulled over. But that's how it should be. You guys should be, everyone should be held accountable for their actions. And it's really easy not to follow the rules in a UTV just because they're just so fun to drive. But make sure you're doing your part. I wanna make sure there's plenty of trails open for when my kids one day are riding, and hopefully when I'm old and crippled and whatever else, but still ripping a side-by-side. So thank you guys for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button. If you guys have any questions at all about Lake City or Colorado in general, I've got a lot of good information, good trails that you want to make sure you're hitting. But you're going to want to stay tuned for the next video, because my dad and I hit up Poughkeepsie Gulch and I put the Pro XP to the test. It doesn't end well, so make sure you stick around for that. It'll be posted in about 2 weeks. So thank you guys for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.